Yes, guys, that's what's good, right? So, I live in this like weird little country. It does weird things, and upon it doing weird stuff, then expects us to just like remain put or something and not complain. So now that you've understood all that, seeing as South Africa's like all defeatist against black people, however, being a black country, having largely a black government, I therefore would never have chosen to live in any kasi anywhere once I got out of the kasis, because I made an observation that there were benefits in the burbs. Why? Because I noticed that people that were living in the kasis, even if, mind you, listen to this, okay, like please, let's just take this in one stride, let's do that. Even if the kasis or the burbs, sorry, I do apologize, even if the kasis were in close proximity to some burbs, nonetheless, electricity, for instance, provision of such a resource as that, was still strangely partial between Alex and Santon. Weird. Still strangely partial between Deep Sloot and, like next door Ramsar. For real? Still strangely partial between Soweto and, like, what is this? The southern parts of Johannesburg that are, Burby, that are suburbs, like Oakdean and stuff. There was still more electricity in Oakdean than in Soweto, but like y'all are so close to each other. I mean, really, if this is a regional issue, what's going on? Yeah, I've been made to live in some kasis, you guys, and I wasn't a fan for those reasons. I mean, it's nice to live among black people because it's easier to be among black people as a black person because there's less discrimination, and on top of that, you kind of get each other more. And like I said, kasis are a lot more vibrant, a lot more busy, and there's a lot less complaint about what the next door neighbor is doing. And so that helps. But all the disadvantages far outweigh the advantages of being in the kasi, because the disadvantages are so material in their importance. Things like electricity, things like water, guys. Yeah, things like water provision, things like safe roads with no potholes. No, I'm sorry, like such things are too important for you to just be focusing on tabara. You get to throw a bash every 3 weeks without anybody complaining. Yeah. So granted that's like a whole thingy, my Bobby, I chose to exit the kasis, but then I was thrown into obscurity and poverty. Oh, look at me. There's like such a teardrop over there. It's so heavy, God, when it lands. I was thrown into obscurity, and given that I was thrown into obscurity, my family members acted really dirty. They made like this African government that even though you're black, what are you doing? You're out here messing with black lives? Black lives matter, my body, that's what's good. Ain't nobody care about black people in the black community, and yet you out here rioting, making white people basically worship you because you were previously disadvantaged. Charity begins at home, buggers. Anyway, let's just put this on them. My family members made like my government, and they threw me in obscurity when in and of themselves they were living in opulence. Yeah, so I have lived in Naturina of which is a kasi. It used to be a white only area back in the days of apartheid, and then it got made black because it was so close to Soweto, the places where black people were living. And then as soon as black people moved in there, white folk got driven out. They decided to leave, and only a few white families remain in Natch, right? So it's black. It's a black name. It's black and colored. It's mixed, right? Because there's like a whole bunch of people from Aldo's as well that came in who were colored, the previously group areas colored region, and black folks. So Natch is filled with black and colored people. So it's a kasi, basically. It's a ghetto. Okay, and with it being a ghetto, well, I mean, like when I was living there, Jesus Christ have mercy, the power cuts. Roodepoort has always had an issue with power cut issue, the power cuts, even apart from the nation having a problem, because their power plant is ancient from the days of apartheid, and they made a decision not to upgrade or do anything over there precisely because it was shared with Dobsonville. So I mean, this racist country, it's just always been doing a strange thing, okay? But other suburbs in this country of ours were relatively safe from load shedding until about let's say 5 or 6 years ago. That's when it got bad for all of South Africa, because now they couldn't afford to be unfair to just like black neighborhoods, because now the power grids were falling apart so hectically. Maintenance was not done so badly that now white people, we try to spare you as much as we could. Suburbia, we try to spare you, but at this point we also gotta snatch your piece too. But in the very beginning stages of load shedding in this country, it was only the kasis that were really feeling it. It was the kasis, and they would get power cuts for hours on end, sometimes even days. And when I was living at Naturina, we like power cuts were, oh guys, and I was so depressed like all the time, because I mean I was in that situation and I was so lonely. The power cuts were prolific, and I was always just trying to bite my fingernails off. And there was a time when there was a power cut for 3 days, like I couldn't cook and I didn't have enough food to eat. I was caught like yo guys, it was just so bad. I don't even know how I made it, and I was all by myself. Yeah, I mean, you would imagine that, God, at least the part that, yo guys, it was so bad. I would sit in my car and I was in so much pain during that time. I was in so much pain. I could not afford to live without electricity, and yet I would get these like hours upon hours. Like this power cut crisis that we're dealing with now in the country, it had yet to reach that height, and yet at Naturina we were already experiencing it. And then there was a day when there was no water for like about 3 to 4 days too. What's that about, eh? I mean, like in this particular neighborhood, if there's like a burst pipe somewhere, the water will be back within 24 hours. When Naturina, if there's a burst pipe, you like literally sit around for almost a week with no water being restored to you. Why? Let's see on the grid, where is this like disturbance of peace? Okay, just switch off all the water so that we're not wasting water, but then we'll go and patch it up after 3 days while citizens are just dealing. So those were my experiences with Naturina, and I was basically just kind of biting pulling out every hair out of my head. And Naturina was the next place where I was made to live by my family. The first one, however, was Cosmo City. And in Cosmo City, that's the story that I'm actually trying to tell. Yeah, Cosmo City, yo guys, as in it was a Kasi, and just like Kasis, it was always loud and everybody was cool with everybody doing whatever everybody was doing. Whole bunch of people. It was so, oh goodness, guys, yo, yeah. It had been a minute since I lived in the Kasi, and it was just so taxing for me to be there. The dirt, guys, the dirt, like, so handover process for complexes. Like basically what it is that would make an apartment complex feasible to live in according to government standards, that was not honored. Like, you cannot move people into an area where it is that they cannot safely dispose of garbage, because that is a health risk. Yeah, the developer who built the townhouse complex where I was staying moved people in without there being anywhere to dump trash, and also have that trash successfully collected on time. So every so often it would like really stink in the whole complex because of trash, and people would also put the plastic trash just outside their houses. So every so often I would open the door where it is, because we lived downstairs. I would open the door where it is that we lived, and there would literally be like just maggots right by the door where it is that I was at, and it was my responsibility to clean those maggots away. Now, if at all you had known me from high school, there was a time when we were studying the earthworm in biology, and as much as I was a good student, especially for biology because I really loved it, I kind of needed concession. I needed concession with the earthworm because I was too squeamish. I could not deal, to a point where my teacher was like, it's okay, Karabo, fine, it's okay, you can just study it on the textbook and look at the images. You don't have to look at the actual thing, because she saw that I was not able to deal. I couldn't handle watching a living earthworm just moving. I could not actually, work with it. I couldn't. And my biology teacher was like, it's okay, it's fine, just study from the textbook. You don't gotta see a live earthworm. There is no marking, no test, no dissection that's going to be happening with this. Just sit there in a corner. You don't gotta participate. So I have a thing about slithery, like centipedes, millipedes, worms, I can't. Snakes, I can't. And here it is that I was dealing with living maggots. And if I didn't remove them, who would? I had to basically sucker up what it is that my biology teacher gave me concession to do when I was a kid. I had to just deal and clean these things off. And I was always dooming and whatnotting here because there was a garbage disposal epidemic in the complex where I was staying. Yeah, that's a black neighborhood for you. Such things. There's nobody rocking up, no inspector. There's nobody that can actually raise a case with the health, minister or the health. You get bored of the region and actually get the matter looked into, and so therefore hook up some proper dustbins, shall you? Hook up some proper garbage disposal mechanisms Insist on it. Insist. Like, yeah. Yo, guys, that's what it is that I was dealing with, but that's not what it is that I'm even out here trying to talk about. Black folk that throw other black people into obscurity because you want to make them feel all sad inside. You want to make them feel uncomfortable. You want to make them feel like I'm arrived and you are not. Without even realizing that you do this to yourselves. And now you are about to reap what you have sown. You're gonna know what it's like to be a second-class citizen in a minute. It's literally coming to you. Tribulation, I told you, you guys reap what you sow. You're going to get exactly what you did to yours truly. The thing that you did to Kurazi, you're gonna have to suffer from it. You know, second grade chicken. Kind of chicken that when you buy it from the store, it still has feathers. Like, what's going on with that? Oh. Why does this chicken still have feathers exactly? Why do I see ipigolana? Why kibona heba? Somebody please tell me why this chicken still has feathers on it. Was it not industrially plucked? Like you know, when you buy chicken from Pick and Pay or Woolies, it's probably, if that chicken was a human being, it would be a Korean girl. It's that 10-step skin process to get glass skin. Your chickens out here walking around with glass skin because they have so industrially succeeded to remove every last hair and close every last pore on the skin of the chicken that it's all so shiny when it arrives at you. It's so shiny. Not even like, guys, have you ever slaughtered a chicken? You know how nasty it looks? The one that you pluck yourself, the ones that you handle yourselves, because when I or whatever, it don't taste the same, it don't look the same. There's an industrial bleeding process that makes sure that, you know, it's better. Yeah, then what under heaven it is that is the one that you buy at the local market to pluck yourself, to kill yourself, to slaughter, pluck yourself. It's just got this like chicken skin. Like, literally, it's called chicken skin. It's got chicken skin. There's literally chicken in these streets that doesn't have chicken skin. Y'all know that. Like, Woolies chicken ain't got chicken skin. Like, guys, there are chickens that don't have chicken skin because there is a process that somehow polishes it up and gives it a Korean glass skin makeover. Hey, you're used to Korean chicken. You're used to Korean girl glass skin chicken. And here it is that now you gotta like pluck out an extra feather after cooking some chicken, because that's when they rise. And you gotta, yeah, I was being bought chicken that still had feathers. You know what, guys, like, my family, they literally are gonna reap what they sowed. They have this coming. My chicken ain't had no glass skin, and I had to just take it in my stride. Okay, this is what I'm eating. Hey, batung, ne ke le ko fear factor na. Ke kopana le di maggots. I was in fear factor, mina. Ke kopana le di chichiboya all up in my throat. Ke so bone 1 in years. I was living in fear factor, where it is that there were so many flies in the house, no matter how many windows I closed, that I always had to check every nook and cranny for maggots to see if they didn't lay eggs. Yeah, I was living in fear factor. Do you understand? Instead of eating these things that were just living with me, could not put anything on the kitchen counter for more than 5 seconds without worrying on. And then there was the issue with cockroaches. I managed to keep most of those out, but every so often there was a giant one just going from left to right, because if your upstairs neighbor and your next door neighbor don't care to protect themselves from that stuff, it's going to find its way into your space no matter how much you clean. Yeah, I was living in such an environment as that, and I could not believe my life. I could not believe my life. I was there for 5 months, but I know how to riot. I know how to basically throw a scene, my toys out the cart. I know how to basically, be a protagonist, a little bit of 1 minute. I know how to be a little bit of an instigator, right? Of a rebellious, riotous affair, something out here in these streets that is intended to stir up people, charge them to start a revolution. I've been made that girl. Yeah. So I managed to get out in 5 months. I would have stayed there indefinitely, like they were planning on leaving me in that place indefinitely. But after 5 months, the lease, which was a year lease, was ceased. It was ceased. It was cancelled. And I ended up being moved just by myself to Naturina, and it was better. That environment was terrible. And it was also made worse by the fact that I was made to live with a man that I didn't even know, my dad. Yeah, I couldn't stand it. Yeah, that's what black people out here doing to each other. That's what you do to your daughters and your sons, because you feel ngati they need to be punished. You feel like the way that you punish a fellow black person is by impoverishing them. Like, we don't know, like, poverty. We don't, like, black folk are born and bred and made in the center of poverty, and yet you feel like you can punish a black person successfully by attrition, torture them with poverty. Yo, and the thing about poverty, if you've never lived in it but you're a black person, it's almost like a dormant gene. Do you understand? Survival of poverty by black people is a dormant gene. It's just lying there waiting to ultimately come to your rescue when you finally do experience poverty, so it won't ransack you. We are clean in poverty. We don't look poor in poverty. We don't age because of poverty. Our skin does not sink in. Our eyes don't become sallow. We don't become bloodshot because of poverty. We don't suddenly experience what it is that when people are thrust into a great deal of poverty, they then now all of a sudden look 27,000 years older. Because, like I said, poverty for the black person is like a dormant gene. If you're not born in it, it's okay. The gene is just gonna sit there and do nothing. It's just gonna hang. Yeah. But that dormant gene will become dominant the moment you throw a black person into poverty. They won't just cave. They won't just sotlecha and bafokotswe because now they're poor. Because it's just built in us. It's like a generational blessing that way. Deal for poverty. Being able to just deal with it for black people is genetic. It is a congenital, what shall we call it, a defect? No, it's a congenital birth anomaly, but it is not a defect because it comes in hella handy when you throw each other into the defeatist thing that you always are throwing each other into, black folk. I don't know any single black person that's been made poor that did not still look hella good for somebody suffering the way that they're suffering. It's in our genes. But black folk, because you're defeatist and you like throwing each other under the bus and stuff like that, yeah. Every so often you think that just because a chick was born into a snobbish family. What's up? I just got into a massive altercation with some black people. But it's okay. I'm gonna calm myself down. I'm going to speak. I'm gonna do what I need to do, following which I'm going to just carry on with the day, because every single time I'm under this kind of attack, and every single time I am being forcibly pushed into a corner to commit suicide, they manifest demons and they treat me like trash. Like, I just got yelled at right now for something I didn't even do. I'm not even going to talk about it because I was on another topic. It's that basic. And this time around, I'm not going to be put in such a frenzy that I'm going to be out here begging God to commit suicide. Because, like I said, they keep repeating the same spells, like over and over and over again. And each new time that they do these, I get just ever so slightly less affected by them. I become less intensely abused by the spells. Like, this woman just knocks here, asks me for the key, and when I open, she then yells at me and tells me, don't you ever dare wash the dishes again, because I'm sick and tired of wiping water from the floor. The last time I washed dishes today was in the morning. It is currently 2041. It's 2041, do you understand? Meaning that if there's any water on the floor in the kitchen, it's because of my older sister, who is currently baking in the kitchen, and she probably washed some dishes, and water landed on the floor, and I was the one giving grief for that. Yesterday, I was left with a pile of dishes on the sink to wash. Do you understand? All by myself. And I was upset about that, but nonetheless, I washed them. And in the middle of me washing dishes, I was told, nobody's forcing you to do this. Oh, really? Because if I were to walk right past these dishes and not wash them, tomorrow you're going to tell me about how I'm just a bum, I'm lazy, I do absolutely nothing in this environment, and yet I don't want to pull my weight, do my part. The part of which that I am apparently supposed to do is pretty much cleaning the whole house. Yeah, and not just the one dish, while everybody else just gets left to do absolutely nothing. So I told you guys that in this environment, I dot my I's and I cross my T's. In this environment, I do absolutely nothing out of line, lest such a thing as this should come. But I did let you guys know that this guy from America, come hell or high waters, by whatever means necessary, he desires to have me gankane by fire and by absolute force, alongside a whole bunch of people trying to pressurize me into marrying just anything that comes along, offering itself to me on a silver platter. Any dirty set of loins, I must just grab them and make a baby with them. Yeah, given that that's what people are actually trying to do with sorcery, I then get what is this whole situation with my mistreatment by my family. I get voluminously mistreated by them. So I will one day just run to an HIV positive man in America and be like, you know what, I'll take it. I'll go on PrEP. I'll go and eat a whole bunch of ARVs. And even though you're going to bewitch the crap out of my life for the existence, that I will still be here. And even though I'm also going to be nursing you while you're passing away from full-blown AIDS, I'll take it because it's better than this trash. That's what people are trying to do. So when I rock up here with all of this sarcasm and I make it clear that Noma Ningakala Inyemizizam are like 5-2 redemption, it is because I see what's going on Gaibona in broad daylight, and everybody that is trying like a dog to derail me are doing so using the exact same strategies. Like absolutely nothing transforms, nothing changes, absolutely nothing changes. They just do the same things over and over again, and very typically, very predictably, after they commit these abominations, it's genocide, because I'm not the only victim. After they commit these abominations, yeah, well, I don't know, they then get afflicted by a guilty conscience. And then after the guilty conscience, all of a sudden you're talking to me like I'm a human being. Oh wow, that's just the thing. Like, I wasn't really sure if today I should greet or not, lest you should decide not to greet back or greet me with an attitude. I'm not really sure if today I should walk into the house at all or just wait for you to leave the room lest my very presence irritates you. I can show around you, so I gotta have like some kind of you know, like a litmus test that I must walk around with to gauge, like test the air, just check the air in Jafela, the atmosphere, just put a litmus test inside the atmosphere to see if it's safe to walk in or is it not. But I mean, if my bladder is hella full and I gotta pee, I gotta walk into a house where I'm being yelled at for the whole duration as my urine drops into the toilet. Have you ever peed at such record speed, like literally pushing your urine out of your bladder so you can finish like real quick, or even if you need to do the number 2, have you ever pooped so hard, like proper, literally just with all the thrust in your body trying to get that dump out so you can wipe yourself, wash your hands and get out, because in the middle of you doing all that, somebody's busy rapping on, trusting that if at all you were not in need of the toilet, if you did not need to poo or pee, you would not sit that out. It's written in God's word that like a constant dripping on a rainy day, so too it is to share a house with a contentious woman. That's what's good. Yeah, you would much rather live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a contentious woman. You would much rather live in a desert than to share a house with a contentious woman. And so this person that's always like goop 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 dripping like a tap and always like bye, you will do anything to get out. So if you can walk a good 10 kilometers away from the yapping, rapping random person that's always down your throat with something like a bit of a choking like apple, something stuck in your throat, suffocating the living daylights out of the breath out of you, if you can't run out of there fast enough, you're going to be subjugated to the tyranny of needles bursting in your ear because the muntu keeps on talking a whole bunch of smack to you. That's how I live in the midst of these people. I don't know. I am on thin ice. I told you my older sister is now currently living with us, and so that's like a double whammy of demons, like 2 people that are freaking demon possessed over and above the one that already had an issue. And whenever my older sister is around, I get to wait along. I really don't know how this stuff works, how entities work, but all I know is that when people that are of the kingdom of darkness, when they come together in the presence of a Christian, they worsen, they get worse. Do you understand? It's like just like it is written in God's word, where 2 or 3 are gathered, there he is with us. That's what is written. So you can trust that where 2 or 3 demons are gathered, there too are the kingdom of darkness people gathered, and there is more power, just as it is written in God's word that 1 brings down 1,000 and 2 brings down 10,000. So you can trust that when 2 demons come together, then they can do a lot more damage, like on a like exponentially. The growth is not linear. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2. It's like more like 1 + 1 = 10. Yeah, that's what it is. And so the climate of demonic attack against me when she's around is just through the roof. It's astronomical. So whenever my older sister's around, I'm hostile against everybody. I'm quiet against everybody. My mother's wickedness ramps up like literally to the nth degree, and I gotta tiptoe around everything and everyone. And if I do not tiptoe around everything and everyone, I'm going to get lambasted with some kind of a psychotic attack. I, irrespective, get lambasted with an attack anyway, even if I try to avoid it. But at a minimum, I try to basically just eradicate like everything. I try to not get anybody bursting on me. I try to not get anyone bursting on me. So now, just like in the kingdom of heaven, 2 or 3 are gathered against one Christian, and I have got to duck that bullet, but I can't dodge that bullet. And that level of demonism that threw me go Naturina, threw me go Cosmo City, because I was going to get now punished by poverty. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, they were anticipating that thanks to working together to despise my God, working together to humiliate me, to show me what I needed to be shown. Seeing as they were now working together, I was supposed to now come out of Cosmo City with a big fat chunky baby bump that nobody knows what is what guy. I was supposed to come out of Naturina with HIV. I was supposed to come out of Naturina having settled, having compromised, or maybe even in a body freaking bag. I was supposed to finally do whatever the occult wanted me to do. But that's just the thing, black people, we need to talk. Like, let's have a conversation. Like, this is what you do to each other. You are full of psychosis, all of you. Like no man's business. And then you throw black people into obscurity to handle them. People that are in your families. You sacrifice, literally, your own family members. Into cauldrons. I spoke the other day about how it is that lafisana very easily. Like, the moment you want to make a quick buck, an easy buck, a sangoma will tell you must give me someone in your family, and you just easily just feel like vomit. Karabo, Jabu, family member names that you're happy next week. We gotta go to Nasia West Park Cemetery to bury someone. We have got to go Avalon or whatever, or go Lenasia. You get my point. Next week, because Jabu just had to get the job promotion. Jabu was tired of obscurity. Interviewer for jobs and not getting anywhere. So really and truly, like, it's okay. It's just another person, Jabu, for you to drop Utepo dead. Hey, Utamba, Umtwagi, cousin yako. It's nothing. Your brother, your little brother's Pusiso, there are more where they came from according to Ujabu. Uspusiso Omunyuzo figure next year. Uma's gonna give birth to a daughter in 2 months. So really, she's not gonna miss Uspusiso. You think human beings are replaceable, expandable just like that. You easily just vomit the names of family members and human sacrifice rituals just so you can get away. And with all that, just so you can get imali. So you can enable yourselves along. So it is therefore feasible in a black country run by a black government for there to be Alex right next to Santon, because in black freaking families, you've got a person living in Santon and another one Urutinko Mukukun. You've got like a whole Deep Sloot versus Remsach or Maldus Drift situation, literally in your own backyard, where it is that you're living in opulence in a house and your child is living in the back of it in a shack, gathering dust, unable to come up for air, essentially just dying. But really, it's a necessary evil because I gotta get to where I gotta get tomorrow. You club together against Abantu Bagini, and if at all they dare give their lives to Jesus Christ, then more so are you going to band together like a bunch of miscreants. The inequality in this country is as a result of black families really just kind of throwing one another overboard. You are throwing one another into the ocean. Why? Because like the country's black. It's South Africa. That is what it is. We're in Africa. So it's a black country. So if you go and you decimate black folk, of course the whole country's gonna fall apart, especially if its government is also black. Especially if its government is also black. It's so shameful what in the world under heaven is going on in South Africa with this whole black government thing, that we are literally living far, like our lives and infrastructurally and in terms of provision by our governments, if they fall far short from an oppressive regime we used to belong to. Apartheid better provided for citizens than what the black South African government is doing. And that is a shame, because it is trying with every bone in its body to prove that it wasn't broken but you try to fix it. They're trying to say apartheid wasn't broken but you try to fix it. That's what people who are still racist with that old school mindset are thinking. It wasn't broken but you try to fix it. And indeed they look right now, ain't got to they're accurate. Why? Because look at what under heaven you have done to South Africa black people the moment you took power. You destroyed the country. Look at what you do to each other. Look at what you do to each other. A woman that's already on the precipice of suicide and you're going to try and push her over the edge. That is already seriously ideating suicide. You are going to go and just add salt into that. And the audacity. They're gonna have the audacity to go and grovel and moan over the corpse of which, let me save this content. The corpse of which, the cadaver of which, okay? When you are calling the coroners, first of all, when you are screaming and yelling and crying that somebody has passed away, and then the neighbors come and ask, oh my goodness, what happened? How can we help? and then you tell them my daughter committed suicide, the neighbor's going to be like, goodness, I saw it coming. Like, that's literally freaking what would happen here. This woman opposite would say, I saw it coming. The neighbors, Gamona, the white couple, the young white couple, even though they don't live in this complex, they're opposite us. They would see that they would basically have made an observation, even though we don't even talk to them. We don't talk to them. We don't have relations at all, Nabo. We just kind of see each other, and every so often maybe my mom might greet the guy, Akamubon. But like, we don't have any relations. However, if I were to commit suicide and that whole raucous basically ruminate through my neighbors, this whole complex, that would not have seen it coming. Why? Because this whole thing has been going on for freaking years. Years. There was a time when some guy tried to intervene and was scooted away by my mom's lies. And the other day, that same guy was the one because my mother had locked me in the house by mistake, and he had to come and open this door to get my key and see my living conditions. And so if I were to be found having committed suicide, that would look at my mother on some, I'm so sorry. They would look at her on some, you literally drove her to this place. The woman is wise enough, smart enough to be able to reach that inference. She's smart enough to be able to reach a conclusion that if I were to commit suicide in this state, I got shazek. But she is leaning on that black gene, I told you, that deals really well with poverty. That congenital, I can't call it a defect, but it's a gene. You are born with it. And even though you are born in a middle-class family, it's almost as if the Lord has inbuilt inside these black people an ability to survive poverty at such extremes. Because one, the world is really unfair against black people. And so they just leave them to die and rot and pass away. That's what's good. And secondly, black people don't care about each other. And so given that black folk don't care about each other, the Lord has just made it possible for black people to bounce back, to survive black neglect by the world and other black people. And so therefore, what it is that was done to me being thrown pillar to post, where there were maggots on the floor, me being thrown pillar to post by evil people that are just looking at me and tell themselves it's every man for himself. Labo jabu nalabo refilwe, nalabo newo, nalabo pinky. You get my point. All of these diners in the black community that upon them going through a hard time, nyana, going to a sangoma asking for help, and the sangoma's like, you gotta give me one of your family members, they easily can just bodla igama lika Karabo. They just easily vomit igama lika Karabo. Next thing, Karabo's been involved in a car accident, so of course it was really cheap for my sister and my mom to sell me. It was really cheap for my whole family to treat me like this. This thing that I'm going through right now, that I'm enduring. Like right now, my little sister, the way that she copes with this evil, Yamona, the way that she is basically trying to pretend that there is nothing wrong. I told you, my little sister's like, she grew up as a child soldier. She grew up in rubbish. There was a time when she was prepared to hear the gospel. The past days I've been speaking about how it is that we have got to go home. Because if the Lord does not rapture the body of Christ, if he does not take us out of here, no flesh would be saved. I've got a freaking terminal illness, even though I am healthy. I've got a terminal illness, get healthy. Do you understand what I'm saying? I am utterly and comprehensively healthy, and yet I'm still dying. Because that's what black people are doing. So now if you're a child that's ever grown up in this level of evil, and your conscience is beating on you, and so too are the invisible qualities of God beating on you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You are being raised to be nihilistic. You are being raised to ignore a travesty in the room, and you are being made to believe that this is okay. That's what's good. And however, God has got a conscience that he put in you. And the Lord has also given you his invisible qualities that you might be able to see past, that you might be able to see past the nonsense of your sister, so that you can be able to basically navigate your way around an evil family that wants you to inevitably end up in hell as they're going to hell. The Lord gives you a conscience and his invisible qualities. And how does my little sister deal with that conscience that is beating on her? However, she's got this resistance coming at her. She's got this resistance coming at her, telling her, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. This is nothing. It's normal. It's normal. When you normalize rubbish in front of a child that has got an internal conflict, what does she do? Exactly what my little sister does all the time. She just leaves. This kid lives away from home more than normal. As soon as she could, she started doing that. As soon as my mom gave her permission, as much as she wants, she did it. She capitalizes on it. There are some times, like, not even 1 week, in any given year, that goes by where my little sister is at home all week, Monday to Friday. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I loved home. I loved home. Anyway, I didn't want to sleep anyway. I liked my own bed. And indeed, just as my little sister too, she also likes her own bed. That's why she keeps coming back. But it's freaking hard for her to stay here for more than 5 seconds. She can't. She ends up going all over the show. And as if we are with boyfriend or with best friend or what's going on. The other day she was even considering, even though she doesn't even earn enough money, like not sitting, what is this? Like coming together clubbing with somebody, like maybe some roommate, that whole thing. She wants ufunupuma. What else am I? Why? Because she cannot deal with the internal war. The world is telling her A. God is telling her B. And she is making an observation of C. And she does not know how to reconcile all that. And so all she can do is just go to where it is that normally. All she can do is live among people where their families are not as messed up as her own family. She can only go and basically immerse herself around a boyfriend maybe that does not have the level of chaos that she has. All she can do, first of all, she's made an observation of my innocence. And yet despite my innocence, she has also mistreated me violently. And with that mistreatment, she always gets attacked by a conscience of which that beats on her down so badly that rather than have to deal with a conscience that's afflicting the living daylights out of her, what am I? And every time after my little sister leaves, because of the way that my mom just treated me, my little sister, of which will have also stood with her, she supports them. Last time I had a big fat brawl, an argument with my older sister, and my older sister and my younger sister, they ended up having a conversation about me in the toilet, in the bathroom, and I just had to come beside. She is being made to support them, stand with them, because they're the only ones that are standing with each other. It's a triangulation. Do you understand what I'm saying? But to continue to get away with murder. Bayasizana. And if I were to commit suicide, my little sister would be freaking shocked out of her mind. My older sister got driven to suicide by the wickedness of my mom and my older sister and the whole damn family that lied about a person that I grew up in the midst of. I saw that she was innocent. She was above reproach in front of me. She was living an above reproach life in front of me. And I still mistreated her because they all made me feel like it was okay to do that. And now she's dead. And she would not be able to deal with the guilt that would follow her for the rest of her life. She would always remember how innocent I was. She would always remember how many times she made me wash after her, clean all of her dishes, wipe the kitchen counters. She would always remember the times when my mom just yelled at me for no freaking reason. She would always remember all that and would follow her for the rest of her life. And my mother would have likely been inconsolable after I committed suicide because she would have trusted that I'm gonna stay alive. They would have thrown a person over the edge and done what a black family typically does after a person they put to the end of their lives kills themselves. Freaking moan, groan, cry, roll over on top of a casket, kolifum. Inconsolable, already voice. You are genuinely devastated, Mara. The person that is now in the grave, in the run up to her suicide. You yelled at her over something she did not deserve. And now she's dead. So my little sister would have not only had to pick up the pieces of my mom's inconsolability, but my older sister might in and of herself, given that she's on the freaking edge herself, committed suicide because of my suicide. So we'd be dealing with 2 suicides in the family, a mother that's inconsolable, and a younger sister that would have finally gotten to a point that this here killed Karabo. And then later, the older sister. And now my mother is dying from a broken heart. But they all did this to her until she could no longer live. That's what all of your witchcraft does. That's what your witchcraft does. You throw people under the bus. You try to force people to do things they don't want to do. And when they don't react appropriately or according to your sorcery, you then go right back to the drawing board. She just keeps on going back now to witchcraft. Every single time she is scared that I might just come out and be okay again. One loy. She keeps whamming me with sorcery. And when then you keep on whamming a person with sorcery and I won't get breaky yourself. When you're then in the presence of that Christian, you will manifest demons. And so the two of them have a kopane. Give bills a babeng way hard knock. When the two of them are together, they are a hard knock, demonic combination that it basically is, can't nobody stop us, get party. It's a party. And when she is here, I get abused. So janung jaga khaya asa duli kontlung ya hai. And she's presently living with us for whatever reason. Now, I don't know what it's gonna take for me to be pushed to the edge of myself until I'm dead. They are gonna keep doing this. The last time when I was afflicted to the edge, like literally pushed to the edge of my seat, she was here. What am I gonna do with 2 people? They keep on consulting the sangoma. What am I gonna do with that? You see, as a child of God, I would have been able to separate myself from my family. Indeed, the law says, be ye separate. Be ye separate. I would have been able to live somewhere else. On their sorcery. They can live together on their sorcery. They can do that. Insofar as I'm not in that midst, but I cannot choice to do why. Because the insensitivity of the black community has impoverished some black people so badly that they gotta live amidst abantu that drive them to death and then have the brazen audacity to tumble around on their casket at the funeral. Had the brazen audacity to gyokhala. You must understand, people in this complex, once my mother yells and says my daughter's committed suicide, they would wag their heads. They would wag their heads because they would have seen it coming. Kodwa nabo, they were standoffish. They just stood back and watched the woman literally waste the life of her own daughter. They would have watched the family just waiting for umuntu nje ukuthi azibulale. And even though they would be indeed wagging their heads, like I said, they would have been to a certain extent also guilty because they could have done something and they did nothing. I could end up dead. It's a miracle every single year I enter the new year. It's a miracle. Every single day I wake up and I'm still here. It's a miracle. Every single morning I get out of this place and walk into the kitchen for them to see me. Because any day they could basically be dealing with tabaure. Either my cat would be scratching at the door trying to come in, or scratching at the door trying to get out because I'm dead. Or if at all, it's not my cat scratching at the door. It's a stench because don't nobody check on me unless I go inside. That is going to be so prolific after just a day, maybe two. Because of how hot this environment is, because of my dead body. And that would be what gets me discovered, gets me found. And when the coroner comes, the neighbors would be wagging their heads because they would have seen it coming. They would have freaking seen it coming because my mom's abuse is on a rooftop. It's obvious. It's obvious. Hanamoto, they are ignoring it, kodwa, it's obvious. That's what I'm getting at. It's obvious. That is the neglect of the black woman, the black person, the black child. They get abused until they die. And when the person who killed them is ultimately out here exposed as having killed them, all they do is wag their head at tabaro ubulele motwakohen. Black people are neglected. Black women and black children, they just get left to die. They just get left to die at the hands of other black people largely. And even though people might have made an observation that this person needs saving, they stand back until all they get to do is, like I said, wag their heads because they saw it coming. Who lives in a shack at the backs of their mother's houses for years on end and goes nowhere. My car is so dirty. It is so dirty because it does not go anywhere, it doesn't move. My mom just recently bought a new car. It's basically dead. It's going nowhere. It's been used as a storage facility by my sister, or bailing some of the things in my car. Even though I once bought dustbins to put my things in there so I don't put things in my car, but I've kept quiet and accommodated my sister leaving her stuff in my vehicle. Because I don't want to be dealing with guilt of telling her, but I went and put my stuff in storage bins. Please get storage bins for yourself. I don't want the guilt of having to tell her to do that when she's already going through a hard time. So looking at trash in my car when I took out trash out of my own car. I took out trash out of my own car at my own expense when I got a donation some time ago, and with that money I bought dustbins so that those big large dustbins so I could put some of my things in there outside where it is that they're waterproof, rain does not pierce through. And now there's a whole bunch of stuff dumped in my vehicle, the people of which that keep on dumping stuff in my car can't even appreciate me for just sitting back and allowing that to happen, even though I took things out of my own car. So those observations would be getting made. And then they would have to come and clear this particular environment, and then they would see the conditions that I'm living in. They would see the conditions I'm living in. They would then have access to my YouTube channel. My family members wouldn't. They would get severely humiliated by my death. And I am not here trying to spare them from humiliation because I literally don't give a damn. I don't care. I am sparing myself from sinning against God. The work that I do every day is to give myself encouragement so that I don't sin against God. I don't want to test God. I don't want to find myself in Sheol thinking that I'm going to heaven. I don't want to do any such thing as that. So the only reason I'm alive has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with my salvation. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Strive to make your calling and election sure. It has everything to do with the pearl of great price that I purchased, sold everything that I have in order to acquire it, that I might enter the kingdom of heaven. This is about my soul, and it has nothing to do with them, because I would give anything for my mother to be handled for what she did to me. I would give anything for my older sister, everybody. I would give everything for my little sister's indiscretions to be exposed as those belonging to older people that created a child soldier, a little demon child, out of a kid that would have turned out alright if she was not raised in the midst of so much evil. My little sister is so disrespectful, I can't stand her. I don't like hearing her voice, I don't like her laughing, I don't like hearing her footsteps, I don't like anything about her. But my perspective is always straightened. The reason why I like nothing about my little sister is because she's freaking mean. She is mean. She is mean-spirited in a way that nobody else is. My mother is not that cold to me. Neither is my older sister. She's horrible to me. She's a nightmarish kid. But my perspective is alert. My perspective is open. I see things as I ought. I recognize exactly what it is that is going on right now for what it is. So I can never blame her for anything. My perspective is in the right place. And with it being in the right place, I therefore can never ever blame a kid that was born literally just 2 days ago, raised in an ecosystem to hate somebody that she doesn't even know or understand. Why I can never blame her. So for those reasons, there's always a soft spot in my heart somewhere for her. Even when she like throws all of her freaking junk in the sink for me to wash, treating me like a domestic servant, I don't care. No, not that I don't care, I do. I can't stand it. That's the reason why when she walks into the room, I get irritated. But irrespective, I always bounce right back to, what do you call this, perspective. The fact that I remember a time when she was willing to listen to reason. I remember it. And so for those reasons, I cannot blame somebody. Like I spoke about this yesterday, over the tribulation, when it comes, when it slaughters the human race, because now we have reached the end of the world. Children are going to become militant because of how irresponsibly they were raised. They're going to become like cannibals. They are going to be made into monsters, just as my little sister is a monster now. However, the Lord is going to be the only one that's going to rescue them out of that. So I can never truly blame them. I can never ever have qualms, truly, with any Gen Z, no matter how disrespectful they are, because I blame the ecosystem they're growing in. I blame the world they're growing in. I blame the earth that has nurtured them to hate people that don't have much, to mistreat people, even though they can't make any sound observations at all of why these people are being treated like this. There is nothing that my little sister can identify, earmark, pinpoint as to why I'm being treated like this. She cannot, with any real sobriety, actually find anything wrong with what I've done. I've done nothing wrong, and she is aware of that. She is thoroughly aware of that, and yet she treats me badly because it's what it is that she is being helped to do. So all of these disrespectful Gen Z kids in the family, the ones that, like I told you guys the other day about the kid who told me that I should go on the side of the street and go beg for money. Yeah, it hurts to a point where I avoid them now. I don't relate with them as much as I used to, even though I love kids, because I don't want to get hurt by some child that does not know what in the world he's doing. I can't stand the way that they mistreat me, but I also cannot hold them hostage. I cannot put a gun to their heads and basically call them guilty for crimes that they committed, because they are a byproduct of the wickedness of grown-ups. We have reached that place. That's why I can't deal with millennials. I cannot deal with Generation X. I can't deal with baby boomers. I cannot deal with anyone other than kids. And even then Gen Zs, I presently cannot deal with them because they've already been gotten to. The only people that I would ever have a chance with right now are Gen Alphas. But at this stage, it's over. When you have so tarnished the earth, when you have dragged the planet's worth of children through the mud like that, and you must understand, guys, Oguti, there's nothing left. The Lord is going to go and take his children, rapture us, and then handle everybody. And so when you're dealing with militant kids, when you're dealing with child armies, when you're dealing with child soldiers, when you're dealing with all of that, understand you manufactured them to be like that. This little zombie child in the house, that is my little sister, she's not even here right now. Because she's always leaving, she's always going somewhere. She's always going somewhere, wherever. I can guys. And that's not even safe. Like as a mother, when your 22-year-old daughter, 21-year-old that lives Montlu is always malunde, and she doesn't even tell you who guy. I mean, every time my older sister asks my mom, where's my little sister? My mom is like, I never ever left Mina once I got to a certain place, the house, without telling my mom, guy, Ma, I'm going to be with my boyfriend. Ma, I'm going to be this and that. I never, ever, ever, ever left without telling my mom where I'm going. Now my little sister she packs a bag and she goes, and my mom does not know who guy. How much weight? That is a person that is acting out because of the conditions that she's living in. And that's how Gen Zs are growing up. They feel as if though they can run their own world, run their own show, because adults are messy, it's cantankerous. And I'm grateful that this little brawl that just happened right now between me and my mom, with my older sister treating me like trash for no other reason than the fact that she can, because afterwards she locked the house with my key in it, and I asked her for key. So I asked my sister for the key, and then she came out from where she's at talking to me like I'm trash. What makes you think I'm just here to listen to you asking me for key? Mewa how has locked me outside of the house. I'm asking for key. They all treat me like trash, but that's not reason. I'm glad my younger sister was not here, but the other time she was. But it does not matter, because the only thing that's going to rescue that kid for Jesus, the only thing that's going to make her see the worthwhile thing that Christ is the tribulation. I can't say that enough. Do you understand, black people? Not just black people, but world. This is what you've done to people. It's what you've done to the Generation X. It's what you've done to the future. It's what you've done to the youth. If my little sister is what rubbish she is because of being raised in this climate, if that's what she is, what future is there for the world? Who in the world is going to take on board humanitarian crises in the world? Who's gonna care for the men, women, and children ravaged by famine in the Horn of Africa, in the Tigray region of Ethiopia? Who is going to care about refugees displaced by wars? When kids are as cold as my sister, I'm frankly a refugee. I'm practically a refugee, and she can't care for me, and I'm right in her family. So she will not care about some starving child in Africa. You have no idea what you're doing in these kids. You are making them calloused, apathetic, cold, unfeeling, insensitive, to a point of not caring enough to embark on humanitarian endeavors to rescue the suffering. When you make children so classist that they see nothing about next, got the suffering. When kids are made to not care about the lowly, they're not going to do anything to aid the suffering. They're just going to walk over them. It's about the 2 randa, the 3 randa, the 5 randa on the side of the street. They will never ever embark on basically endeavors to remove the homeless from the street. They will never try to do any such projects at all. It's going to be every man for himself. My little sister has not been engendered in her a humanitarian heart to a point where when her dad passed away, I was there for her. When my dad passed away, she was not there for either me or my older sister. She does not care about big matters. She doesn't go to basically moral support where family members are concerned or anybody. She's not there. She's a fair weather kid. Fair weather. Because she has not been ingrained in her the importance of camaraderie, of support for fellow people around you. And when that's not been engendered in you, what under heaven are you going to do in the future where there is still all this suffering in the world? Who, seeing as you are the future, as these kids, you are the future. You are tomorrow's Secretary Generals of the United Nations. Are you actually going to care? Or are you rather going to be pushing some other agenda? When you don't care about the lowly in your own family, you can never care for those in the world at large. But you see, that's the thing. The hypocrisy that dwells in the millennial generation, in the Gen X and those going beyond, that hypocrisy is not going to exist in the Gen X, in the Gen Zs, sorry. Why? Because, for what?